Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and this is DM's Tips, and welcome back to another episode. Now we're obviously clearly, as we're looking into our DM's Tips at this stage, you've already probably seen that I'm trying to put as many DM's Tips programs out there as I can each week, because I am trying to give out as much information as quickly as possible. I felt when I first started with YouTube, I thought it would be very, very easy to just do maybe one DM's Tips a week and live off that for the first year. However, I decided that I'd really stretch myself and put out maybe 2 programs a week or more, and actually really give out some valuable information as much as I could at this stage. Now today what we're going to talk about, and this is a very, 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 very tricky piece, is what defines good role playing. Now first off, let me just explain something. This is going to be a slightly longer DM's Tips program, so you need to be aware of that, but it's specifically a reason. Because this is quite controversial. So I need to also explain that if you're a DM watching this, or a player, just think of it in terms really of DMs. Think about an imaginary gem, a beautifully cut gem with many facets to it. Now, all DMs, no matter where you are on one aspect, one face of that multifaceted gem, no matter where we are. I have a facet, you will have a facet, every DM. It's unlikely that the two of us will share the exact same facet. We might do, and that would be lovely, but we're unlikely to. But we could be diametrically opposed. I might share one facet, you might share the direct opposite. But we're still linked. So no matter what I talk about on here, the key is, this is my opinion, okay? You may or may not agree with it, but the point is there is some value in what I say when you think about it. So please do think about it, and hopefully it's of some benefit to you. So, good role playing, the art of it. This is really quite controversial, so let's get straight into it. Now, my view of what makes good role playing is as follows. Now, I have heard many times players say things like, I'm designing a character and I've got a backstory for it, and I'm all for that, as any referee should be. And they'll say things like, my character's got a fear of fire, as an example. That's great. You know, that sort of level of detail you can accept, and that is fantastic, because you can understand why the character in a certain situation might turn and run, act very scared, or be very fearful about what he's about to do. And that's really good role playing, because what he's doing in essence is he's actually politely given himself a handicap, but he's done it in a constructive way, in a way that isn't going to come up all the time. It's not going to hinder any other player, and that is perfectly acceptable. That is what I call the art of good role playing. Now, there is another extreme to this, which you will often hear poor players say, and they will use these words a lot. And if you've got players in your group who say this, be very mindful of what I'm about to say. But that's what my character would do. You know, that's a hock of crap. Yeah, that's nonsense. You know, if your character would stab one of his own players in the back, yeah, kill the local duke for no real reason, just because, that's not good role playing. Because what you're doing by doing these actions is you're affecting the other players in your group dramatically. You're drawing them into your flaws, and that is poor role play. So those sort of things really do need to be, you know, talked about. Now hopefully, if you've got a good group, your group will actually pretty much probably drag that player over the hot coals and give them a bit of a roasting about the way they're actually performing and playing, because it's not acceptable to them. But if all the group is playing that way, it's very tough for a referee, particularly a new referee. But you've got to set your standards high. This is what I always say with people. Set your stall out high. I won't accept that, because what I will do as a referee is, I won't moan at the player about it. Repercussions for actions is the key. And you know, if that person's actions cause repercussions for everybody, that's the way it is. But ultimately what I'm doing by being that tough with them is the other players should, if they can see the writing on the wall, turn and say, you know, we can't do this again, because you know, it's having an impact on our game. We don't want to ruin our game. So that's really where I'm trying to go with this program. It's about actually realising the art of good role playing, understanding what is acceptable that a player can give you. You know, a nice detailed background is one thing, but adding silly things in, like, you know, that's what my character would do, is another. And if somebody gives you a background that you don't think is isn't particularly any fun for you as a DM, or you think is ridiculous, you've every right at the beginning of your campaign to turn around and say, look, you know, I'm sorry, that's not quite what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this sort of level of detail. Set your standards high. accept no compromise, and it realise what you do as a referee. It's really important, this. You know, what you do fundamentally challenges your players. And you know, your standards are ultimately what your players become. So if you don't have high standards, you don't breed good players. Now really think about that. Yeah, and that is so true. Because if you dumb your standards down, so do your players. If you don't set your store high, nor will your players. And ultimately your games are what you make them. Now we might think that the games are all about, you know, the players bring in 9/10 of the game. And you know, to a large degree, yes, they certainly do. But it's your 1/10 that ultimately controls it. It's your world, it's your stories, it's your standards. Don't drop them. Maintain them. And don't allow people to use crappy excuses in your games. And you know what? By setting those stalls high, by setting those standards, you do encourage a better type of player, and you allow creativity in your groups, and you allow the better players to find their voices. And the more quieter ones in your group don't get drowned out by bad actions or mimicking poor play. They come alive a little bit more because they realise you're giving everybody time. Anyway, this has been a DM's Tips programme about the art of good role-playing. I hope it's been of some relevance to you, and it will be a topic we will be examining again soon. Anyway, take care, happy gaming, until next time, bye-bye.